I know. Don't worry. It's okay. It's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm
Wonderful.
going to hang up our phone. Okay.
So I'm going to hang up the phone, right?
Yes.
Hi, it's so nice
me
to
to
see
stop.
everybody.
You're
Samantha, you still there?
This is a mishpacha, partially mishpacha.
Samantha, can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
I will be mute so that you can talk, but thought we'd wave hello first.
Can't hear you now.
We'll just give it a few minutes so that everybody has a chance to sign in.
Oh, gosh. Hi, Gracie.
Daniel, Melvin just went on it and it says the address is invalid. Do you know what that means?
I'll send it to him again because I'm on it right now.
Oh, okay. Here, you want to tell him or you want to?
No, I'm going to tell
Okay,
him.
he's going to send it to you again because he's on it right now.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
How are you?
Now we're not.
We're gonna make ourselves invisible because we're eating lunch, but we're here.
All right, let's see.
Hello,
There's
Paula.
other people who are trying to join. Hang on.
Hi, Louise.
Now I'm going to start.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are y'all?
Oh, I'm okay.
Good to see everybody.
Samantha, I've got no sound. I've got no sound. Why is that?
Daniel, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Go to the top. Go to the top
You can hear
right-hand
me?
corner. Press it and
Yes. We hear you fine, Daniel.
And
You can't hear the people talking?
I can hear the people talking. Now, it says,
Okay, well, they can hear you, so
Okay.
I think we're good.
Samantha, it says share screen. And my screen is not sharing. My slides are not coming up. Why is that?
It's at the top right-hand corner, not down there.
And you'll see the options, and you have to click on the slide that you want. So remember the screen with the slides?
It said host
And then you have
disabled.
to do start share.
It said host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let me take care of that. Hang on.
Okay. 1 second. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, how is everybody? Hello, Lisa. Hello, Bernice.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
sitting straight.
Hello, Melanie.
Susan.
Okay, try it now.
Got it.
All right.
Whoops. Oh, there we go.
And don't forget to maximize.
I'm doing that right now. Oh my gosh, what was that?
So he started.
Okay.
Rita, hello.
Hello, 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 everybody. I'm so
Hi, hi,
bad.
hi.
Here it is. Aha. All right.
There you go. Looks
Okay.
good.
All right. I'm so nervous about electronics. I'm so bad at them, but I think we can get through this.
I think so too.
Okay, very good. Let me just see it. Excellent, excellent. All right. We started at 11:15, correct?
Correct.
All right.
So give it a
everybody.
few more minutes because I'm still letting people in.
Thank you, Samantha.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up now.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
He's waiting until it's officially 11:15.
Okay.
Now he's starting. Turn the TV off.
Hi, everybody. We've got a really good
Oh,
crowd this morning. Thanks for joining. We'll just wait one more minute because people are still coming in, and I have to let everybody in one at a time. So
Hi.
just hang on a couple more minutes or one more minute.
Do you want us to introduce ourselves or something?
No.
Okay.
Is Daniel?
Is Daniel doing the,
Daniel's
Can you
doing
all
the
hear me?
lecture. I'm just helping out.
okay, thank you.
Debbie, shake your head if you can hear me.
Shake your head if I can hear you. Yes,
Paula, can you hear me?
We
I
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Yes.
Hear
Very
you.
good. I can't hear you because you're muted. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
We
Rabbi
good.
Safran, can I start? You're the boss.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's time. I think go ahead.
Rabbi, may I start? Thank you.
Can,
Delighted to have all of you here. We're going to talk about Judaica. And there's a set of 4 talks. This is the first one. And this one deals with Pesach, because we just finished Pesach. Judaica are objects that are made for the purpose of beautifying our rituals. That's called Hidur Mitzvah. And this is one of our customs, one of our commands. And nearly all of the objects that I'll show you in these 4 lectures are in the Mollie and Lewis Kaplan Museum of Judaica at Beth Yeshurun. Some are currently on display. Most have been on display, but others, because of limitations of space, may never have been shown. Very briefly, at the end of the Second World War, the Jewish Welfare Board sent messengers, rabbis, people to help resettle these survivors who were just left wandering when the camps were open. And one of them was a rabbi, Isaac Tobin. I can't imagine that he had any money to speak of, but he saw that there were Judaic objects that were being discarded or melted down for silver, And this is my imagination, but I imagine that he had dollar bills and American cigarettes. And in the 1940s, in Europe, you could buy anything you wanted with dollar bills and cigarettes. And he acquired a really fine collection at Judaica. Rafi Arbiser, Beth Yeshurun, heard that Rabbi Tobin was interested in selling this collection because he was about to retire. He had become a major expert on Judaica in the United States, and he was the advisor to the Jewish Museum in New York. So Rafi Arbiser got Louis and Irvin Kaplan and their wives, Mollie and Mollie Ann, to agree to donate the collection to Beth Yeshurun. It's been added to extensively since, but the basic collection and the really fine objects were acquired by Rabbi Tobin. It's very important, folks, because there have been lots of reproductions and fakes. So what came from Rabbi Tobin, he bought it right there on site, so you know that's authentic. And any of the objects the museum has acquired subsequently has been through the 2 or 3 really well-established, well-recognized, let's say 4 well-recognized experts in Judaica. And sometimes I've even gotten second opinions from other experts in Judaica. So the collection is really a very good one, and it's very authentic. Now we're going to start with Pesach. So here's the Kiddush cup. Is this a Pesach Kiddush cup? Is it even a Jewish Kiddush cup? Well, this was the standard motif that was used to make Kiddush cups for Jews in Russia, Poland, and Lithuania, beginning in the 1870s and 1880s. Even before that, a little town scene. Some of them even show railroad trains. And there's no question about the authenticity. The 84 is the percent that's silver. You can see the Russian marks. The hallmarks show you it's authentic. Is it a Pesach Kiddush cup? The family that had it used it for Seder, and for several generations, they called it a Pesach Kiddush cup. And according to the great expert on Judaica, William Gross, if a family has taken an object and used it for that purpose for a few generations, that's when it becomes, you know that this is a Jewish Kiddush cup, folks, but you have no idea whether it was a Pesach Kiddush cup. Now, differently, look at this one. Cobalt blue glass. You can imagine how rare of a piece this is to have survived the upheavals in Europe. This is probably mid-19th century, and you can see clearly Pesach marked across the front in the glass. So there's no question this is a Pesach Kiddush cup. It's a beautiful piece. It's got a little ornamentation, and this is part of the original collection. Here's another one. If you look to the left, this just has the Borei Priat Gofen. And you'd say, well, I don't know if that's a Kiddush cup, a Pesach Kiddush cup or not. But if you turn it around, you would see L'Chag Matzos. There's no question this is a Pesach Kiddush cup. And this one was made somewhere in the Middle East by the Mizrahi Jews. It's very hard to tell one country from another. The boundaries weren't so clear. The workmanship was similar. It's said that maybe it was made in Yemen around 1900. It's very uncertain, the dating and the location of these. And actually, the provenance, where they really came from, who owned them, is generally not known. This one, interestingly, we purchased from a well-known, one of the few expert Judaica auctioneers, and it has on the bottom a catalog number. Somebody had this in a collection and put a catalog number on it for his or her collection. But the auctioneer Kestenbaum, who sold it to us, didn't know where it came from. So that's what it is dated to about 1900, more or less. So this one is German from the mid-1800s. This one is Mizrahi, maybe Yemenite from around 1900. This one is Bezalel School. Very, very important. It's marked inside Bezalel, so you know that's where it was made. And I want to comment on Bezalel School in a moment. But it says here, Biyad Chazaka Uvizroa Netuya, with a strong hand and outstretched arms, which is, of course, the quote from Torah, how the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt. And you can see this is a fanciful idea in the 1920s in the Bezalel School of what the Israelites or what Egyptians were wearing in the year roughly 1250 before the Common Era. Bezalel, very briefly, Boris Schatz, born about 1880 in Eastern Europe, was among the wave of young Jewish artists who wanted to make a career in art. And with the Enlightenment, this became possible. You can be sure their parents were never very happy about this. People like Marc Chagall, Chaim Soutine, what they usually did is they went to Odessa, which had a great school of art. And from there, they went to Paris. And that's exactly what Schatz did, except Schatz got to Paris and he trained for a couple of years there. And he said, I want to go to Palestine, to Israel. I want to establish a school that will make art that is Judaic. It's based on Jewish subjects by Jewish artisans. And that's the beginning of the Bezalel School, I believe set up in 1906. Bezalel, it's a double entendre because of course Bezalel was the craftsman whom Moses designated to build the sanctuary that they carried through the wilderness. But Bezalel was also Boris Schatz's Hebrew name, so which was named after maybe both. This is a Bezalel Pesach Kiddush cup. It's small, made out of brass. It's very lovely. You see the detail on it. It's got an Art Deco appearance, and that was the style. I'll show you a Pesach plate in a few minutes, made also by the Bezalel School. Now, this is an Elijah
Daniel?
cup. What I said before applies extra strong applies to this Elijah's cup. There's no marking on this other than the fact that it's silver. Nothing to say it's Jewish at all. But in the Toronto antique store where it was purchased from a Jewish antique dealer, that dealer said this family who owned this used it as an Elijah's cup for several generations. It's a great big silver cup. One has no idea who made it, except it was probably made in the late 1800s. And no one can say if it really was made to be an Elijah's cup, but it was used as an Elijah's cup. And according to the expert, William Gross, it's now an Elijah's cup. So now we move on to Seder plates. And we have a number of them. I'm going to show you a few. This is rather typical. Around the margin of the plate is the order of the Pesach service. Kadesh, Urchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. And it goes all the way around to Nirtzah, and it's got the full, which is the full order of the Haggdot service. Interestingly, look at this. Karpas, Yachatz, Rachatz, Rachatz Motzi Matzah. It looks as if the artisan left out Rachatz when he was making it. So he squeezed it in here, and there it is. And he ended up with a whole lot of extra space that he had to fill in here. So he filled it in by elongating the letter Nirtzach and putting a little fanciful animal just to fill it out. There was a famous British historian and philosopher of history named Collingwood. he said that what a historian does is to put himself in the place of the people who did things, to try to understand their motives. And when you work with a museum collection, there's an awful lot of that. I have no idea if the guy who made this, I don't know why he put rachats there, except I'm just guessing he was moving along. He got distracted. Maybe his kids wanted to talk to him, who knows? And he realized, oh my gosh, I left it out. He had done all this other work on the plate, so he went back and stuck it there. I don't know that for a fact, but it seems like a reasonable explanation. Now this one is almost certainly French. There's no marking on the back saying that it is. And actually, when we purchased this one, it turned out that it was originally in the Steinsaltz collection. But it's a very typical French style. Let me show you the next slide. I'm going to come back to the text on this one in a minute. You recognize these? These are these Quimper French plates, a very standard French pattern. And you can see how similar this one is in the Pesach plate. And what that tells us is that Jewish artisans, wherever they lived, took the style of the country in which they were living, and they took it over for Jewish purposes. Going back to this one, there are the six things that are traditionally on a Seder plate. Zroa, Matzah, Maror, Haroset, Karpas, and the second Maror, which is used for the Hillel sandwich, for the Korech. And this artist decided to make a little jingle out of it, which is kind of cute. Zroa, Matzah, Maror, Livracha, Haroset, Karpas, Maror, Likricha. I never saw anything like that. I think it's really kind of cute. And this is a mid-19th century French Seder plate. This one is really one of my favorites. It's an absolutely gorgeous piece of porcelain. The workmanship is really spectacular. Again, you'll see the same Kadesh Urchatz Karpas Yachatz Magid Rachatz Motzi Matzah. It's got the order of the Haggdot of the Seder service going around, and it also has here Vehotzeti, Vesalti, Vegalti, Vilakachti, God's four promises. I will take you out, I will save you, I will redeem you, and I will take you to a promised land. And it shows a poor little Pesach who's about to be sacrificed, and it shows some maror. Let me show you up close. Look at the beautiful workmanship on this thing. Now, I told you about Collingwood. Collingwood says you got to figure out who made this and why. And I'm going to show you. Figure where you look at the back of the plate, you're going to see who the maker was. The back of the plate, this beautifully finished porcelain plate, the back was unfinished. Not only is there no maker's mark on it, that's not even a finish. It's just a rough piece of china. I'll come back to this in just a moment. But why is it a rough piece of china? Where's the maker's mark? So once again, you say to yourself, well, who would do that and why? My hypothesis is that there was a well-to-do owner of a porcelain factory, Jewish, and he wanted his own factory to make himself his own Seder plate. So he went to his finest craftsman. He said, please make me a Seder plate. Maybe the craftsman was Jewish and knew what was supposed to go on it. Maybe the owner of the factory had to tell him what went on it. But at any rate, the guy, probably the craftsman, the man or the woman, probably came back to the owner and said, well, should we finish it and put our trademark on it? And he said, well, not really, because it's personal. So there's no mark on it. It's not finished. What it does have is has the Mandate Yisrael, which everyone recognizes, and one of these dots over the letters. As you all know, every Hebrew letter has a numeric value. And if you take these dots and you add them up, you can calculate from that the Hebrew year. And this is an abbreviation, which means in accord with the custom of our congregation or our tila, our people, really how you date something. And from that, you could calculate that this plate was made in about 1880. But it's very interesting because it's beautiful work on the front, unfinished in the back, no maker's mark, and the way you can date it is these dots. I will tell you, and I think in maybe my third lecture, I'll show you, we have sitters from the 17th century in the collection. On the front page of a Siddur, it doesn't say the date, but there's in there a line from the Psalms or a line from Tanakh, and there are dots over the letters, and that's how you calculate what year the object was made. Now this is a characteristic Bezalel school plate, and it says up here, Bezalel and Yerushalayim. Are you able to see my pointer? Can you see my pointer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bezalel and Yerushalayim. I didn't enlarge this one, I'm sorry. But at any rate, this is again that Art Deco style. It's very ornate. This was the style of the Bezalel school in the first decades of its existence. This plate was probably made around 1930. And it has scenes relating to the Exodus from Egypt. Here they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and it's upside down, but I can recognize a chariot wheel upside down. And this is probably the Egyptians pursuing him. I don't know exactly. And in the middle, it has Manishtana, the complete Manishtana. And why the artist chose to put Manishtana in the middle and not follow the custom of putting the order of the Haggdot around it, I don't know. But this is a Bezalel Seder plate made probably around 1930. Now, this one, also made around 1930, is a most remarkable piece. This is your Seder plate it has 3 layers in it for the 3 matzot. And it's got these figures up here and these bowls that would hold different things that are used for the Seder service. And according to Rabbi Tobin, this chain that closes it up was not an original part of the Seder plate. It was originally open. And Rabbi Tobin said this was taken from an atara. That's the part of a talit that goes around the collar. And someone had the idea to take it and put it on a slide so you could cover up the matzahs. And Rabbi Tobin told us this. I think that was his conjecture following Collingwood's approach to history, because again, nobody knew. The owners perished. He found these objects in little shops around Europe. But this is a really extraordinary Hungarian Seder plate. Now here's another one. This is not exactly my style, but it's a particular style of pottery made in Italy. And you can see again marked around the outside. This has the charoset, the chatzeret, the other bitter herb, karpas, beitza, the egg, maror, and zroa, the egg. So it tells you what's supposed to go on a Seder plate. And it's glazed and finished. I tried to date this, but the company that made this in Italy has been making these things since the 1870s in a very similar style. There's no date on it. All it says on the back is Italy, but that's what it is. And maybe it's from the 1940s or 50s. It certainly isn't a new one, and it may be older than that. There's no way to tell, just no way to tell. So that was Seder plates from the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, and I don't have any more recent ones to show you. Now we can switch to matzah plates. Those are Seder plates, right? They tell you the different things that are parts of the Seder service. This is just plain a matzah plate. And this is made by a company called Bardiger Ridgway, a British company in the very beginning of the 1900s. And one of our congregants, Myrna Zwickel, told us that her grandfather had a shop in the old East End in London where he sold various things, including some Judaica, and this was a plate that she got from him. So it says Matzah in the center, and around the side here, this is Manishtana Halayla Hazeh, Shebachol Halelot Anu Achlim. And the scenes are all scenes that relate to the Exodus from Egypt, not all of them. This is with a strong hand. Again, you've got that one. Here are the sons. It's interesting. The text says the wise sons, but I can't imagine there weren't 4 wise sons. There were 4 sons, and only one of them was wise. So I'm not sure why it says the wise sons, but that's what it says. You see, a lot of this stuff just isn't explained, not explainable. But this is from the early 20th century. It's a matzah plate. Now, if you had a matzah plate, same as when we have a challah plate, you might have had a matzah cover. And this was made, handmade by the grandmother of one of our congregants. And to my embarrassment, I've forgotten which congregant. I'm very sorry. I apologize to her if she's watching. But you can see beautiful lace work. This is what girls were raised to do at the very beginning of the 1900s. And it's silk with silver thread and colored thread. It's really fine workmanship. And around the outside, it's got the blessing for the matzah. Asher tichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. And in the middle it says, Shivat yamim tochlu matzot, which is a quote from Torah, 7 days you should eat matzah. So this is the cover. The matzah would be put to be passed around the table. Matzah on a matzah plate, might be covered, might not be covered, but that's a matzah cover. This is a matzah basket. And again, one of our congregants, Bernice Heilbrunn, whose family escaped from Germany with a number of objects, brought this. This is a German custom to have a wicker basket. It's lined with linen, and it's got, interesting, the same sentence on it, matzot tochlu or tochelu, same as the matzah cover from the previous one. And the custom here was obviously to place the matzah in a basket, and maybe it would have been covered with a cover like the one I showed you a few moments ago. And then the matzah was passed around the table this way in a basket. And I think Bernice and I make this out to be the 1920s. It's very, very hard to tell. Certainly no dates, certainly no signature, but from the workmanship and the age, that's probably when it came. What's that? You know what that is?
A matzah. No.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I hope few people said that's a matzah roller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, no fancy museum. A fancy museum might not show this piece, but our museum does. I think it's a wonderful piece. I'll just remind you that matzah has to be made very rapidly from the moment the water is added to the dough till the moment it's put in the oven and heated. Is it 18 minutes, 17 minutes? Help me out, somebody. 17 or 18 minutes?
18. It's
18. Thank you, Leslie. I can't see you. I can't hear you. So the reason our matzah have all these perforations is that that's the tradition, so that the heat from the oven should go through the matzah, and the thing should not have a moment when it sits in the oven that there could still be any kind of leavening. The heat has to get to it right away. So this is a Matzah perforator. And actually, when I started to help out in the museum 15, 20 years ago, this was sitting in the back of a closet as if nobody wanted to show it. But I think it's a really neat piece. It's in bakelite and wood, and it's probably made in the United States, and it's probably from the 1920s, but nobody knows. So we've got a few Haggdot to show you. I wish we could have, maybe we can have question and answers. I don't know, people got some questions to ask. Rabbi Safran, can people ask questions if they want to? Why doesn't somebody try to unmute? You want to ask a question? Hit the unmute button and ask. Let's see what happens. Lisa, hit the unmute button and say hello.
Hello. Dan. Hi, Dan. It's Joanne Honig.
Hello, Daniel.
Okay, I can't hear you. I wish I could.
Hello.
Hi,
No, I can't.
Daniel, it's
Probably
best
my
being Sandy.
electronic inadequacy. So no,
Daniel,
Daniel,
it's Evie.
won't do it. Won't do it. Okay,
He,
so
he can't hear you, but you can send
obviously
him a
we
chat
don't
message.
have a 15th century Haggdot in our collection. These things are exceedingly rare. This one is from Worms. It's in the British, the original is in the British Museum. The Houston Museum of Fine Arts bought a 16th century Haggdot to put on display just 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Displaying something like this isn't very helpful because all you can show is you got a thick book with a couple hundred pages, and you can open it up and you can show 2 pages. So it's really not very satisfying. People don't go back to the museum every day and have somebody turn it every day so you can see a different page.
Wasn't venting.
So I happen to photograph this one.
For
This
sure
is
it wasn't
the Biur Hametz, the search for chametz,
say venting. It
the
said
night before
that must
Erev Pesach.
If you're
And
going to
I kind of
speak,
like it because I think this man is going around with a feather duster looking for
we have
pieces of
people that are not
chametz,
muted.
the same as we still do. So this custom among our people has gone on since the mid-15th century, which is certainly very interesting. So I just got a couple more Haggdot to show you, and then we'll wrap up. This is the it's a first edition of the Union of Hebrew Congregations, the Reform Movement. They made a Haggdot. We've got one of those. This is an interesting one. William Rosenau decided to make a Haggdot service, so he just did it. And this one has music in it.
Good.
And it's Block Publishers, 1913. Of course, here you see Moses, and they don't look like horns. They look like rays of light, because this is, of course, a Jewish piece. And we know these are supposed to be the karnu, the rays of light emanating from the head of Moses. St. Jerome translated as horns, cornu. And I think that was perpetuated for anti-Semitic reasons, just so happens. But that's Moses with the rays of light having just received the commandments. And here's Aaron, and Aaron's wearing the breastplate of the priests. And when we come to Torah ornaments in 2 weeks, I'll show you some Torah ornaments that relate to that theme.
we just need to.
Now, this was absolutely my least favorite of the Jewish artisans, but he's very well known. Some people like this style. A man named Jake, who was, the host has muted all participants. Okay.
So I don't think.
So he's a Hungarian. Are you, Rabbi Safran, are you allowing people to unmute if they want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes,
Anybody
they
wanna
can
ask a
unmute if they
question?
want to ask a
Question.
question. I'm just trying to minimize the background
Say
noise.
something. Unmute and say something.
Right.
Still muted.
Yes, and I do hear someone still speaking. I muted everybody except
Jake made this
Daniel,
excessively
but
ornate
please mute yourself.
style. This was his unique style. but these Haggdot are very highly prized. We have actually one of the, not the very original, but one of the original ones of this in our collection, and I thought I would show it to you. It really is not my favorite. Yeah, we have probably 80 or 90 Haggdot, and that's really just a tiny fraction of all the Haggdot that have been issued over the years. Here's an art scroll Haggadah for kids, which is really very nice. This one is, of course, a very, very important one. Carol, what's the name of the rabbi who made this? We got it wrong. This is the David Moss Haggadah. David Moss was commissioned to make a Haggadah, and the original is each on a separate page done by hand. Then there's the limited edition. 250 copies were issued, and Beth Yeshurun congregants bought one of them in honor of Rabbi Siegel. And these are really, really beautiful. David Moss, for your interest, was, I think, the first one to start making beautiful ketubot. If you're the same age as Carol and I, and some of you are, your ketubah is just a mimeograph piece of paper. They didn't have Xeroxes yet. Mimeograph piece of paper with room for the signature of the rabbi and the two witnesses. In the 1960s, David Moss began to make, on commission, he made beautiful ketubot. And I think that began the style of beautiful ketubot. I'll talk more about ketubas in maybe my last lecture. But anyway, this is the way he portrayed the four sons. Here he's got the wise son, king, looking studious with a book. And here he has the wicked one who says, what does this mean to you? He has dissociated himself from the Jewish people. And here he has Tom, the very nice, simple one. And he hears the text from, you should tell him, that the Lord brought us forth from Egypt. And here you have the simple one. And again, this is shown like a jester. Rabbi Moss chose to do it. Now, I didn't have enlargements of these little curlicues, but if I were, you can see it here, they're not lines, they're made of letters. So he extends commentary and amplification of the text, which is a Jewish tradition. It's called micrographia, and he had throughout his Haggadah. So this is the David Moss Haggadah. Now another rabbi named Berkowitz decided that he too would make a Haggadah, a limited edition. The set of originals, I don't know where they are, but we're fortunate to have the limited edition. And this is, hallelujah, this is Miriam Hanaviyah, Achot Aaron, with I'm sure it's with the symbols in her hand, and she and the women Israelites are rejoicing after the crossing of the sea. So this is the Berkowitz Haggadah, a very beautiful one. So folks, that's what I had to show you. I'm sorry I didn't photograph more. It's been a little difficult because I'm at home. Carol Emery has the catalog from the collection, the electronic catalog, and I've been bothering her to send me slides. She has sent me what I've asked her, but I couldn't go in and photograph more. I would have liked to. So that's all I have for you for today. Samantha, is there a way to open it for questions? The next three lectures, one will be on Shabbat and Havdalah, one will be on life and life cycle, ordinary daily life and life cycle events. And because we have a particularly remarkable collection, we have a remarkable collection of Hanukkah menorahs and some nice things from Purim. I thought I'd show Hanukkah and Purim items. And of course, when everything reopens, you can come see the museum in person by calling Lisa Unsell, either at the main number of Beth Yeshurun or that number there. Now, Rabbi Safran, can you open it for questions? I can't hear if somebody's
Daniel, it's Evie.
Evie, are you asking a question? Why can't I hear it?
It's actually not a question.
Rabbi, what do I have to do to hear a question?
Boris Schatz came to the States on a fundraising tour. We got sick in Denver.
I don't want that.
And
I don't know what
died in the hospital in Denver, and it took 6 months for people to ransom his body from Denver because he didn't have the money to pay the hospital bills.
Oh my. Daniel Leslie Weiner, I'd like to thank you so much for sharing these beautiful pieces of art in Judaica.
Yes. I wish I knew what to do, because I think you guys are carrying on a conversation among yourselves.
Which is great.
Which
And
is
it's
wonderful.
really,
I can't hear it. I wish I could.
It's really.
So I'm going to thank you for having attended. Am I still on? Can you hear me right now? Shake your
Yes,
head.
we
Shake it.
can.
Can you hear me? Okay. I thank you for participating, and hope you found it interesting and enjoyable. And next week we'll plunge on with Shabbat objects, and maybe Rabbi Safran can set it up so you'll have time to ask questions.
Hi, everybody.
Enjoy,
I'm not
stay
sure.
healthy. Hope to see everybody soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody. This is Rabbi Samantha. I'm sorry that he couldn't hear. I think he needs to, I think maybe the audio on his computer is off. So I will work with him to see if we can figure out how to turn it on, but it was nothing that I could control as the host of the meeting. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that he could not receive your questions, but we will work on that for next week. So I hope you come back next Thursday at 11:15. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward
It was
Is the little button on the lower left side of my screen that allows me to mute and unmute. Maybe that would help him.
Yeah, no, he was unmuted because you all could hear him. If he was muted, you would not have been able to hear him, but there was something with his hearing, his audio on his computer that was not working or that was not on. So I'll work on that with him.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Great lecture. Thank you. Okay, off.
Yeah, we're doing everything by